Okay, welcome everyone to the dining table, season 7, episode 6. As you can tell, Kerman is already away, so I'll be running this one. And today is called Enhancing the DeFi Credit Score. And so, yeah, I'll pass on to the credit guys.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Gabriel, and we're going to start today on just giving you some updates on what has been happening on the credit side from the development point of view. So, as you know, we launched the landing page. We have in place put a system together to get analytics and have weekly reports. We have launched a comprehensive we have a comprehensive launch announcement, and that's what we did last week. We Currently what we're working on is we're actually in the we know that security is super important in this space, and in order to increase transparency and to prepare for the audit, we plan on releasing the contracts GitHub repo to release it open source, to make it open source, and yeah, this is to track week. Additionally, by the way, a post will be following up. We also are working on a document regarding dynamic score curves, which I'll be talking about a little bit towards the end of the credit slides. And yeah, a post is coming up on that one. Also, we are currently working on upgrading our Merkle root infrastructure and some refactoring. This is essentially also a step closer to having our code a bit more organized and eventually improving the security of our system. So this is what we are working on. Going to the next slide. I just want to give a quick retrospective on how the launch went. So it went really great. Honestly, the people took it well. We had a lot of signups. Basically, relative to the number of views, there's been a very high conversion rate, and we launched the first batch of users on Monday. Also, currently the process right now is we are planning to launch a batch of users every week, and we are currently gathering feedback. So really, please, if you're seeing this, my ask to you is to head over to our Discord if you're not already in there, and give us any feedback. And we would really like to know what your thoughts are on the product. Next steps. So as I said, we want to continue speaking with the users to learn and iterate on how you're using the product and how we can improve it. And as well, we want to just a quick indicator on how we're deciding on releasing the next waves of batches. Basically, we're prioritizing the OG passport holders as a thanks for supporting us along the journey, and people who fill the Typeform survey, because feedback is very important to us, and also in order to see to basically see behavior and how people interact with our vaults. People with strong borrowing experience will also be prioritized. Also, some bonus points if you're not on that list, but you still would like to try out the product and are willing to give us feedback. Please reach out to us, and you'll also be prioritized. So this is about launch. Next, as I said, we have been working on dynamic score rewards curve. What this means is essentially context. As it says here, there's a tension between granting users capital efficiency and rewarding them for staying within a certain LTV range. This means for people who have very high credit scores, we say that you can get up to 100% LTV, but the more you get to with the current model, the more you get towards that number, towards 100% borrow usage, LTV, the less your credit score is going to be effectively. But we want to, basically this is some work regarding updating that reward score curve to make the rewards make it more rewarding for people with high credit scores, and allow them to approach closer to that limit effectively. So that's basically the TLDR of this work. Publication is following up soon. I'll keep it here for you to read. I don't want to read the entire slides because it's boring, but you can pause the video and read it yourself. But essentially, you can now, the zones for having an optimal credit score increase are a bit like more smoothened out given the different tiers of the vaults. That's basically the TLDR of this, but keep an eye out for the upcoming article. Going to the next and last slide for credit. For the risk process. So basically, as you see with this dynamic score reward curve project or work, it would be really good to have user feedback on any other risk, any upcoming risk studies on our end. So we put together a process for delivering this information and delivering changes to the credit score, to the risk model of our protocol, in 5 steps. So we identify given our insights, we identify what should be prioritized and what we should work on in terms of risk. Then we'll develop a solution, and we'll write up a paper that will be peer reviewed internally. Then we will launch it over to we'll open it to the public to the community for a set of period of time to gather feedback. Then we'll get this feedback and reiterate and get back, reiterate over the model if there's any critical concerns, and then we'll implement the change and publish the article officially. This is a step closer towards openness and transparency. As you know, at the beginning, it's a lot of these things are centralized, but we want to work towards transparency and decentralization, where eventually the last step would be to eventually have a snapshot proposal where the community can really be voicing their opinion on whether or not the change will be implemented. So this is that's the update of credit so far. So I'll pass it on to Kyle to speak about the infrastructure.
Yay! So one of the things that we are working on in the infra side is we want to scale up our Merkle trees. So as you guys know, we index a ton of people, and a ton of people have a DeFi credit score. That's great. But we're realizing that as more and more people are coming on board and we're starting to track different dApps out there, the numbers are starting to grow. Our current implementation would support anywhere between like 200 to 400K scores. We were processing this in a web server, and it was taking like 20 minutes or so. And we realized that if we, poke the bear a little bit and we give it like 1 million scores, it would take like a day. So we're like, okay, well, we're not there yet, but this is a problem, right? Like we can't wait for the wave of people to come in. And what if we want to index, different things? So Alex, Diego, and myself, we actually implemented the solution to this about a month ago, but it's a big change. So we were running it in parallel, as you see on the top right. We were running it in parallel since then. And a few bugs came up, a few things that we needed to change. But now what we're actually doing is we're migrating the new solution to our stack. And so this would theoretically give us support up to 1 trillion scores, like a million. So yeah, and when we test it, we have now like 500K scores. It takes like 40 seconds. Bonus, yeah, less infrastructure costs because we're doing it in a very, I'll say, sophisticated way. And so yeah, so that's what we're working on now. And it's a big lift. It's it always feels good as engineers when you delete a ton of code and everything still works really well. So this is us just scaling up our infrastructure, and this makes it so that we can go cross-chain, we can go across different collaterals, we can do all these great things with ease and peace of mind, without the worry of, oh no, we might have too many things to index and it might like slow down our system. So that's scaling Merkle trees, and that's be on the lookout for that to be live soon. I'll send it over to Kale, I think.
Yeah. Hello, GM to the world. So yeah, there's a common theme in infrastructure stuff at the moment. So this is something I want to open with, and I'll just kind of continue with here, is we've launched credit. That was like a really, really big push, getting a lot of features together, getting a lot of kind of moving parts together. And now it's there and it's kind of settled, and we're just really building up the waitlist and really kind of testing out the risk parameters and things like that. There's a moment of breathing room for the infrastructure kind of engineers on the team. So what we wanted to focus on is just fixing that infrastructure. So Kyle talked about the Merkle trees and scaling that system up. On the data end, there's a couple of things that we're doing at the moment. And one of the big things we're doing is just reducing compute costs. So for context, like our compute infrastructure costs, like our data compute infrastructure costs more than 10K a month to run at the moment. So pretty expensive. It's basically an engineer that we're paying in infrastructure costs. And this is not indexing the entirety of the ledger. Like we have the whole ledger, but we're not actually decoding it and making use of all that information. So this means that as we start to try and index more and more contracts and understand more and more protocols to build out our credit score or to build out other systems, we're going to be handicapped. Those costs are only going to rise. So this is something that the infrastructure team's been focused on, the data infrastructure team's been focused on for the last month or so. So some things that we're doing to reduce costs are, we've moved from scanning the ledger many times to just scanning it once. So we used to scan the ledger, let's say at 100 times to get the information we need, but that was really wasteful. There's no need to retrieve that information 100 times. We're kind of eating up bandwidth and eating up server capacity trying to get that data. We should really just read it once, process it, and write it out many times. So that's one of the fixes we've been working on. We've been reducing our scanning overlap. So in our system, we have an overlap period that even if, say, like our infrastructure refreshes every 24 hours at the moment. And what we do is we used to look back many, many days to ensure that we didn't miss any information. So if any blocks got reordered or whatever, we would catch that. There'd be no way we're missing information. But that was kind of wasteful. We were scanning way too much data. So we were kind of reducing that and making that a little bit more efficient. One thing on that same idea of reading once instead of reading many. One other improvement we're making is reading once, writing many. So before we were reading many, writing many. So there was all these very parallelized jobs. We're going, well, we don't need them to be so parallelized. We can actually get a lot of efficiency by reading it once into our compute infrastructure, writing out a bunch, and then kind of killing the infrastructure from there. And then the last piece we've been working on is just switching technologies. So something that you would have heard me talk about in previous team calls, the public team calls, is this idea of Casio. So this was a system that was developed by actually Diego, who's in the call today, many, many months ago. And we still had some systems hanging around in our old legacy infrastructure. So just porting things over into that new infrastructure, which is way more efficient, way easier to work with, way more scalable. That's one of those other big savings. So already we're looking like we're going to be saving a few $1,000s just from these fixes alone, but there's still many, many more fixes to come. So Carl, if you could flip for me, please. So there's another kind of little project happening in the background outside of this refactoring and outside of these like cost fixes, scaling fixes. And one is reducing the takes for us to code contract. So basically up until now, it's a very manual process. Someone from the data team has to go and decode contracts themselves. So they have to go through, get all the addresses, get all of the contract APIs, and actually pull the information they need very manually, like set up a very manual pipeline. There's a lot of duplicated code in that, and it's a lot of engineering effort in that, and a lot of maintenance effort in that. So one thing that's being worked on in the background is just automating this whole process. So basically, we just want to reduce the time to decode contracts. We should be able to define a contract or a collection of contracts, and it can immediately scout for the information it needs using kind of like a search algorithm. Understand what it needs, fetch everything dynamically, fetch everything programmatically, and set up a pipeline for us programmatically. So there's now no human intervention and interaction. Adding a new contract now is not hundreds of lines of code, but rather one line of code. And it can be promoted pretty much instantly without any issues. So they're kind of the big things that are happening at the moment. And that's really it for the infrastructure. So Joel will give a quick update on community stuff.
Yeah, cool. So I'll just go through the quick GM summary. So as you can see, everyone's scores has increased. I did notice that Kyle and Kyle has swapped places. So yeah, you got to do some catching up, Kyle.
We were tied, I think, and then Kale, traveled a lot for a few days, so he got wrecked by time zones. It's like I overtook him.
I did it to myself. I started going traveling, enjoying my life, prioritizing things other than my GM score. I deserve it.
Give me an inch, I'll take a foot. Joel, you're next. I'm coming for you.
Yeah, I mean, but we gotta give a shout out to Woo as well for the crazy 160-day streak. So fair play to him. Yeah, so I'll jump over to the community highlight now, and I just want to give a shout out to Juan. I hope that's how you pronounce it. Thanks for getting involved, asking loads of questions and sharing your opinion. It's really good to see, and it's good to see that you're a new Discord member as well. And that's exactly what we're aiming for. So yeah, some words from the Pope. This is not so much words, but a prediction. So this is the ARCx weekly chart on December the 24th, 2022. I don't know how Corey does this, but he's really one of a kind. So yeah, you'll have to check the stream for his prediction. And I think that's pretty much it. I just wanted to note as well before we sign off, if you want to unlock better capital efficiency and you do want to sign up for the closed beta, please check the links in the description and sign up for our waitlist. So yeah, thanks guys. See you in the next one.
Let's fucking go. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.